And I remember as I was doing all this work for my grief recovery, I remember one day my son Evan, he's the youngest, and he said to me, "Mom, you just seem so happy, so full of joy right now." And I said, "Evan, I feel like it." I had felt this like new just the spirit within me, and I'm a believer. I'm a strong Christian, and I knew God was helping me. I mean, I hiked in the desert, yelling and screaming. I was so mad, and I hiked and I prayed, and I just asked God, "You've got to help me through this." And then there was that turn. There was that definite point where I felt new hope again. I mean, cleaning the house, I was feeling so elevated with joy. And Evan was right. I was feeling that joy and that hope again.
Welcome to another episode of WyzeCast, the show that elevates voices, shines the light, showcases the gifts of our heart-centered guests, and amplifies the positive differences they are making in the world. Finding hope today is a blurry speck in the distance as we face our own challenges and see turmoil and conflict in the world around us. Today's guest created the tag Hope Follows because she believes hope indeed follows the hard things we face in life. She is the author of Hope Follows and a contributing author of the best-selling books Lemonade Stand Book 3, The Path from Sour to Sweet, and No Problem Parenting, resources and stories that create confidence and connection. Behind the camera and mic, as an international broadcaster and podcaster, she brings people's hope-filled stories to 7 continents and 190 countries through the Holy Spirit Broadcasting Network and Christian Women's World Network. You will laugh and cry only to find inspiration and courage with her and her guests, determined to find your Hope Follows story in the midst of any challenges you might be facing. Whether it is a room filled with a captive audience on the video or through the airways, her voice of experience and charm bring authority in teaching those around her to have confidence and boldness and reclaiming lost joy. God has been her anchor and rock in walking through some very difficult and dark days, only to come out to a position of believing hope follows those difficult things we face that seem to want to take us out. On the real set of her life, she has a blast spending time with her husband and adult children by a campfire, on a hiking trail, or playing board games. Making memories is her proclamation, with the motto, Carpe Omnia, which means seize it all. And she certainly does seize every moment. My name is Melanie McSally, your host for today's episode. And without further ado, I am excited to host and would like to give a warm welcome to the joyful, the loving, the inspiring Julie Kenzler, who is joining us from Phoenix, Arizona. Julie, welcome.
Thank you, Melanie, for having me on the show. I am thrilled for you and all that you're putting together with this. And I know you're going to shake things up in the podcast world.
Wow, Julie, thank you. Appreciate you so much. And yeah, we are excited by what we're doing behind the scenes here at Wyze Tribe, not just with the revolutionary technology of WyzeCast, but also all that we're doing to help our clients with this digital transformation that we're in. It is both a challenging and exciting time. So thank you so much for taking a moment to recognize our efforts. I truly appreciate you, your kind words, your loving spirit. And I'm excited for our listeners to get to experience your kind heart, joyous spirit, and captivating message. So let's dive right in, shall we? Why don't you tell our listeners, what is the story behind Hope Follows?
before it was a book and it was a podcast, a broadcast show. It's a movement. It all started with no hope, absolutely a hopeless point in my life. And it was back in 2013 when my sister Tammy was hit by a drunk driver. And I will never forget that day. You don't when it's something so traumatic, and there's things that trigger it through the years. And it's been 10 years now for me, but I can feel it. I can remember the phone call of our other sister letting me know what had happened. I remember screaming and in complete denial, shock. And as the days went by, I remember my kids wondering, is mom going to be okay, Dad? I have 4 kids that were young and some in high school and then younger than that, but they really were scared. And what was going on with me, because I felt, friends, I felt like I had no hope. And this was my best friend, my confidant. She was like a mom to me. She was my sister. I mean, we did so much in life together. We had the best of times. And to imagine life without her, it completely rocked my world. It shook me.
Oh, wow. I feel incredibly blessed to say I have never had to face such a devastating tragedy of losing somebody I love so dearly, losing a sibling, a family member, a best friend. I can't even begin to imagine how that felt and how you were able to go on, let alone find joy and turn your experience into a movement to help others. So when facing such a tragic and devastating loss, how did you get to a point where you felt hope again?
Well, after hearing my children ask, what's going to happen to mom? What is going on, Dad? I knew I needed to do something. At the time, I was a stay-at-home mom. I loved everything about it. I also was a substitute teacher at my children's school. And I knew I needed to take a little bit of a break. And I knew for sure I needed a counselor. So I did see a counselor, grief counselor, for 2 years. Dawn, she was the most wonderful person for me at that time in my life. And I had seen a counselor back when I lost my father when I was age 16, but this was just so different. There was just so much history with my sister and I, and it was just all the hopes and plans of the future. I mean, you had that as a young girl and a teenager with your father, but I just can't describe it. It was a tragic loss and unnecessary. Drunk driving completely. We don't even call it an accident. It's a crash. Well, during these 2 years of counseling, I loved everything about it with my counselor. She prayed for me. She taught me how to just reframe and rethink how I was living my life and without Tammy. And I also went through some grief recovery courses. I went through 2 of those, and it was probably 16 weeks each. That was a big commitment, but I needed that. I really needed that connection with people who were also facing loss. And I read a ton of books. I even tell people it was almost as if I went through a whole college course, like a whole semester of college. And I studied. I wanted to not get over, because you don't get over a loss. But I wanted to know, how do I get through it? How do I get to the other side? How do I find hope again? How do I feel happy again? And of course, with children, I mean, I'm happy with them, but there was just something missing so deeply. And I remember as I was doing all this work for my grief recovery, I remember one day my son, Evan, he's the youngest, and he said to me, Mom, you just seem so happy, so full of joy right now. And I said, Evan, I feel like it. I had felt this like new just the spirit within me. And I'm a believer. I'm a strong Christian, and I knew God was helping me. I mean, I hiked in the desert, yelling and screaming. I was so mad, and I hiked and I prayed, and I just asked God, you got to help me through this. And then there was that turn. There was that definite point where I felt new hope again. I mean, cleaning the house, I was feeling so elevated with joy. And Evan was right. I was feeling that joy and that hope again.
That must have felt so incredible. I have so much appreciation and respect for you and your ability to go through that process, come out the other side with such a positive attitude, and all while raising children.
Thank you for saying that, Melanie.
Of course. Well, as I mentioned, I have not experienced the degree of loss you're talking about, but I have felt this overwhelming feeling of despair and doubt. It was during a time when I was doing some shadow work, healing some past trauma. It was kind of thrust upon me and seemed to go on forever. During this time, it seemed like I was being faced with challenge after challenge, and I didn't feel like anyone else would understand or relate. And of course, I also had these beliefs that one doesn't complain about their burdens. No one wants to hear about the bad or the hard stuff. And I can get through this on my own anyway. So, like I said, it went on forever. And when I finally got to that turning point where I could manufacture and then eventually feel hope and joy again, it sort of felt like I was floating on clouds. I felt so light. I also felt so grateful and powerful, like I could conquer anything that came my way. It was almost euphoric because even though the process is long, lonely, hard, and arduous, the shift feels sudden.
Yes, Melanie, that's true.
So, how did you go from working through your grief, shouting from the mountaintops, asking God for help, and finding hope and joy again, to becoming a broadcaster and an international influencer?
During those 2 years of the grief recovery work, I did so much journaling, and I started a blog, and then I had such good feedback from that from friends and family, and I decided to write a book. And the book was yes, the foundation of it was loss and grief, but there was so much more to it. It's little tiny chapters of all the hard things we face. Just it could be low self-image, it could be just a number of things that we face that are difficult in life. And I have humorous stories and practical comments and encouragement to help the reader see that there is hope beyond that difficult life situation. Well, then fast forward, I was interviewed by a really good friend of mine from my church. She was a broadcaster on a show, and it's an international show, international network. It gets a lot of great views, really encouraging. And afterwards, the producer asked, Julie, would you please consider having your own show? And I definitely went to people who are my mentors, my husband. I didn't know how I was going to fit that in my life at that point, but I kept seeing messages, whether it was a church message, a song, or just someone talking to me. I could tell it was time to take Hope Follows to a different level. And this was a great platform, a great opportunity. And that is exactly what I did. I started that, and I'm in my third year of broadcasting the show, Hope Follows. It is found on Roku. I mean, it's just a number of places, Amazon Fire. It's also a podcast, which is on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. I mean, you can find it wherever Hope Follows. Just Google Hope Follows. But I always, and it's so funny because my family and I, whenever we're facing a difficulty, we always look at each other and say, Hope follows. And it's what I want people to experience. I want them to know that hope will follow the hard stuff that we face. And so the show itself, I've had over 90 episodes of this, and we talk about so many different topics. And I have guests on my show, loss and grief. We talk about adoption and foster, chronic disease. I had one guest, a friend who was on there. He was waiting 10 years for a liver transplant. And his story is amazing, facing a threatening diagnosis. And a veteran story who shares of the tragedy he went through, stepping on a mine and having losing his legs because of it, and then starting this amazing program of support for those in the military. I mean, these are real life people, just like you and me, that have faced difficult situations, but wow, the hope they got beyond that and how they used that to encourage others. Marriage devastation and the victories that people experienced, financial tragedies, financial loss, moving into financial freedom, regrets and unforgiveness. And then you have a healed and restored relationship, disabilities, physical, mental disabilities that did not hold back people from the amazing success they're experiencing and how they're touching lives. Oppression to gaining that courage and that strength to get that freedom that you need. I mean, friends, we're talking over 90 episodes. I just encourage you to check it out because I want you to feel hope. And that's what it's all about with this broadcast. And I'm excited because I'm going to be working on some new projects that are coming out as well.
That does sound so amazing. This whole conversation has been so inspiring. I mean, I can't imagine anyone will go their entire life escaping having to feel the impact of grief and loss, because it's found in everything, from transitioning from one phase of life to another, losing something of meaning in life, like a home, a job, a status, an income, a project, to losing loved ones, friends, family members, pets, to breakups, to losing the ability to do something you enjoy doing. So I love that you've turned your journey into something so powerful, so empowering, so impactful. What a blessing. You are giving people hope by showing us that we're not alone, that we will get through whatever it is we are facing, and that there is reason to have hope. So I am excited to listen to be inspired by your stories from your podcast, and definitely adding Hope Follows to my podcast list.
Thank you, Melanie. I appreciate that.
My pleasure, Julie. So how can we find hope and reclaim joy even in the midst of facing challenges and difficulties?
Well, my initial response to that question is right now, let's just do some practical things. So some practical ways are purposefully smiling at someone. And even if you're just not feeling it, just smile at someone. You don't even have to say hi. Maybe later you'll feel like saying hi. Compliment store employees. That's always a wonderful thing to do. Have some granola bars and water bottles in your car so you can give them away to people as you see them when you're driving around town. Another thing that I also love to do is my family and I, one time we rode our bikes to a store nearby, a grocery store. We went to the parking lot And we had 5 sticky notes each, and we wrote hope on each of them, and we just put them on people's cars. I knew it would be okay because sticky notes are not harmful. But if you ever see one on your car, you know it's from me. I also think, what if something really great happened recently to you? Share that. So often we share all the hard things that we're dealing with and the things that are negative. But when you have something exciting or just something positive in your life, something, share it. I encourage you to share that with someone. Buy someone's coffee when you're waiting in line. And we know that's a common way to spread some joy and give some hope to people. Maybe there's also someone you haven't thanked in a while and shown some gratitude to them. I think that's a great way to increase that joy and hope. Who has helped you recently that you can send a thank you note to? Maybe send them a picture of something. If they helped you in your house doing something, send them a picture of it. I know my husband is always sending pictures of anything that his mom sends to us, and he sends it right away. He sends a picture of him with it to her. And I'm sure that really gives her a lot of joy also. I think this is fun. Next time that you have an Amazon package delivered, which could be in 2 hours if you order right now, maybe have a water bottle or a soda you could give to the driver, to the delivery person. But in addition to these practical, simple ways of reclaiming that joy that's ours by doing things for others or just sharing the good things in our life, I want to introduce you to something that I have lived out. It's carpe omnia, and it means to seize it all. It means seize everything. And I know for myself, I recently went to the Grand Canyon and I hiked it from one rim to the next. It's a 23-mile hike that is 7,000 feet elevation gain. It took about 11 hours to do it. I trained for it. I had people there encouraging me and cheering me on. I cheered others on. You see, friends, when we face loss, when we face difficult things in life, we can't do it alone. Sometimes we need that solitude time, but more than anything, we need a cheerleader in our life. And that's what I want to be for you, my friends. And in the next couple of months, I'll be rolling out some new courses I'm going to offer to help you gain that joy and reclaim that joy and that hope in your life that has been missing. You see, my sister loved the Grand Canyon. It was her favorite place on earth. And I wanted to do it. I wanted to honor Tammy. And 10 years after losing her, I did that. I worked hard. I had people there, as I said, cheering me on. I wasn't alone. And I don't want you to do it alone either. A great quote, I love this quote from pastor and author John Maxwell. And he says that everyone has the potential to become an encourager. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to be a genius. You don't even have to have it all together. All you have to do is care about people and initiate that. And that's what I want to do for you. So you just reach out. I'm here for you with anything, any way I can encourage you and share with you my struggle and how I found hope and helping you to see that you can redefine the struggles that you're facing, reframing it, and making a plan to experience that hope and joy for you. Because hope follows all the hard things we go through in life.
That's so incredible, Julie. What a gift you are. I am excited for the world to get to experience your light shining even brighter through all of these new offerings you have coming. So listeners, you might be thinking, this is great, but I need Julie now. You might want to keep this inspiration going and receive more of Julie right now. And so I am excited to tell you about a 5-minute ritual Julie has for you. It's a video that you can watch and a short practice led by Julie that you can do daily. For those of you watching, the link is on the screen. For everyone, the link is in the description for you to gain access to this video. By signing up, you will also receive advance notice of when Julie launches her new offerings. Finally, we'll also link Julie's Hope Follows podcast in the description. I highly suggest you take advantage of these opportunities to bring more hope and joy into your life, starting with just 5 minutes a day. I want to thank you, Julie, for being here today. It has been such a pleasure listening to you and your incredible journey from grief to hope follows, seeing the joy emanating from you and experiencing your kind and caring heart for others. WyzeCast is all about shining the light of our heart-centered guests, and it has been my absolute pleasure helping you shine your heart-centered light and gifts to the world.
Thank you, and God bless you. Stay tuned for more from Hope Follows. I'm Julie Kenzler, and I am your Hope Follows lady, cheering you on to finding your new hope and your joy.
I want to thank our listeners for tuning in. If you like what you heard here today, please do like, share, and comment. We are trying to get WyzeCast to be a hot new release. So if you feel inspired, if you felt moved, if you felt called, if we earned it, please do like, share, and comment. It is free for you to do so. It really helps the podcast grow, and we really do love your engagement. This was another episode of WyzeCast, the show that elevates the voices, shines the light, showcases the gifts of our heart-centered guests, and amplifies the positive difference they're making in the world. If you want to learn more about WyzeCast, you can visit our website at wyzecast.com. We drop 10 episodes every month on the 21st, so you can binge watch or spread them out over the month, whatever suits your mood and lifestyle. Once again, my name is Melanie. It has been my pleasure being your host today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your engagement. And I invite you to come back and join me once again for our next episode of WyzeCast.